Okay, I'm going to demonstrate the usage of remote configuration console. Okay, so this is a remote configuration console. Now this is used to remote control a number of the functions on the laboratory PCs in the computer networking laboratory. Now for example, we use GNS3, and GNS3 makes use of loopback adapters to enable real PCs or virtual PCs, virtual machines, to talk to the routers and switches in the GNS3 topology. So we might want to, for example, set up the IP addresses on the loopback adapters, and we may not want the students to have administrator privileges to do that. So that's one thing that we might want to do. Now, so for example, we can enable the adapters. Now we can also put the IP address in, subnet mask, gateway, DNS server, etc. And we can also load a previous configuration, so we can also save configurations and load them for later. So I've got a particular laboratory here. If I want to deliver that to the PCs in the laboratory, I can select the PCs from this box over here on the right hand side. Now PCs that have an XX next to them are PCs that don't have connectivity to the server, but PCs with a PC and a number have connectivity to the server, and I can select them and I can deploy and operate things from a remote configuration console using those PCs. So for example, if I want to select PC 7, 8 and 9, I can then send those IP addresses. They will configure the loopback adapters on those three PCs. I can select all the PCs, or I can deselect them. Only the PCs that are connected to me can be selected when I select all. Now other tasks that I can do. Another thing I can do on the selected PCs is I can transfer a folder. So if I put some files in a shared folder, I can then specify a folder on the remote PCs where I want to store the contents of that folder, and again I can select the PCs that I want to, and I can transfer those files to those selected PCs. The other things I can do, if I go to remote tasks, I can perform a number of other tasks on the selected PCs. I can shut down the PCs, for example, if at a particular time of night I might want to shut down the PCs, I can actually schedule that. I don't have to be there and do it manually, but I can do it manually if I want to. I could also restart the PCs. I may want to do this if I intend to do something like re-imaging the PCs. Now if I select remote rebuild, this isn't re-imaging, but we may remember that we are using virtual machines, using VMware, and the students are operating on clones, so they're using cloned copies of the operating system. So instead of so if we want to rebuild a virtual machine, all we have to do is copy the master cloned copy, the master clone, to the student's own copy of that clone. So we can do that using this remote rebuild function, and again we can do that on the selected PCs. We can do that for just some of the virtual machines, so we can select which virtual machines that we just want to do that to, so we don't have to do it to all of them. Now another function, another thing that we may want to do on the PCs in the laboratory, the problem is that because these computers are cloned, they're all cloned images. An image has been taken on a workstation computer, and then we've cloned that image. The problem is that very often we find that those clones have the same MAC address. So we've developed a program that we can run on the PCs in the laboratory that randomizes the hardware MAC addresses on the network cards, and we can do that. We can run that from the server. The other thing we can do is we can schedule some of these tasks. We can do a daily shutdown, daily reboot. We can rebuild the virtual machines at on a certain day of the week. We can randomize the MAC addresses on a daily basis if we want to. and etc. Now the other things we might want to do is we might want to install software remotely. So at the moment, if we select an MSI file, we can do that. So if I want to install LibreOffice, for example, I can install LibreOffice on the computers by selecting a shared folder, putting my MSI file in there, the Microsoft installer file, and I can select that and then click on install MSI, and it will install it on the selected PCs. There's some help functionality as well. There's also configuration, so these are sort of like, you know, the default folders, administrator passwords, and the remote PC base addresses, etc. The other thing we can do is we can actually configure virtual machines. So we can actually configure where the types of virtual machine that we've got in the laboratory, and then what we can do with that is we can use them to set up the IP addresses on the virtual machines. So for example, if we wanted to remotely set up the IP addresses on a Windows 2008 virtual machine, we could do that from the remote configuration console. The other sort of things we can do are we can add users, we can also view users, so I could look at users on a selected PC, and I can change the passwords remotely, and I can also add users remotely. So for example, if I wanted to set up a particular exercise for students and I only wanted them to have access to that account just for the day, I could add it from here, and or I could even change the password so that they've just got a temporary password for the day, and I can change that at the end of the day, and I can do that on I can change that for any of the PCs. Now a lot of the functions are run from PowerShell scripts. Now the thing is that these PowerShell scripts, we can incorporate them as they become mature into the remote configuration console, but sometimes we may want to test out the scripts first of all. So we can develop some scripts. So we've got various scripts here, PowerShell scripts that we can run here. So we've got an editor, so we can add a new script, or we can edit a script. Okay, we can save or cancel that, and we could also run the script on the selected PCs using this console. And one future enhancement will be to schedule the scripts as well. So these are just scripts that we can use. We can make them on an ad hoc basis, and later perhaps we can incorporate some of those into the application itself. Now one thing that we do not very often, but on a reasonable period of time, is to re-image the machines using Semantic Ghost. So we use Ghostcast Server, and we can deploy the whole image of the whole disk to selected PCs in the laboratory, or we can just deploy one of the partitions. So we can do that. We control that operation from here. Now, so for example, if I want to just deploy the C drive, I can run this command file from here. I could also edit that command file if I want to. So if I run that command, you'll see what happens. So it starts up a PXE server. It also starts up Semantic Ghostcast server, and it will also start up a TFTP server as well. So we're just waiting for hosts to connect now, and of course if we can actually get the host to connect by going to remote tasks and selecting the PCs that we want to rebuild and just simply saying restart, and it will restart them. So we can do that from in here. The other thing we might want to do, I won't demonstrate it here, is I can also we have a PC, a workstation that is our master image, that contains our master workstation image, and we might want to, for example, we might want to re-image that. Having made some changes on that PC, we might want to re-image them. So that's the main functionality of the remote configuration console. It relies mainly on using PowerShell scripts from within the application. Some of the PowerShell scripts are use an agent on the remote PC, and some are just run from the server itself and acted upon on the selected PCs.